touch on another longevity uh, article, because obviously it's undeniably it's a hot topic nowadays. So I'd like to mention the silent medical condition that affects our longevity negatively, much more than our genetic makeup might, and that was low grade inflammation. So please could you outline what exactly is low grade inflammation? And so like, can it decrease our longevity? Sorry. Why can it decrease our longevity? And what can we do to turn off this low grade inflammation?
Yes, a very good point, and also it's clearly connected with the type of inflammation that we mentioned at the beginning, the one that is connected to oxygen
Mm.
um, stress. This kind of low grade inflammation, as the name would suggest, is a type of inflammation that it would occur inside our body, and it's completely silent. It's not something that we are not aware of, because, for example, when we experience acute inflammation, we realize it, because sometimes we would have, for example, fever, or we would have in a specific part of the body. For example, if we get injured, we then experience the swallowing part, and we feel that is hotter. We
Mm.
recognize acute inflammation. What we don't recognize is this low grade chronic inflammation. And um, on one end, we have the acute inflammation that is crucial for our body to fight, for example, infection.
Yeah.
And it's a mechanism that is extremely powerful, but also needs to be regulated in a precise way.
Of course.
So, meaning when we activate it, then we need to deactivate it quickly.
Hmm.
But in some case, we may remain in this state of low inflammation.
Hmm.
Um, and this chronic low grade inflammation is triggered by different things. Of course, we may have a specific disease or condition that would trigger it, and
Hmm.
those are the most dangerous and hard to control. Because, for example, there are some uh, autoimmune disease that would trigger this type of inflammation
Yeah.
that is not something that we can control,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But also some other, let's say, behavior would trigger this type of inflammation. For example, there are some type of diets that are very rich in ultra processed food,
Mm-hmm.
food that are very high in calories, salt, sugar, uh, all these type of nutrients that are uh, responsible also for this type of inflammation. Again, alcohol consumption, smoking, also the stress that we can experience. If you have a high level of cortisol,
Yeah. And
then
sorry,
please.
just before you move on there, just the point on the ultra processed foods, and I want to mention even sort of simple foods like a lot of bread in superstores, they may contain like texturizing agents, mono and diglyceride of fatty acids and things like that, which these emulsifiers, they actually to me, I feel they can cause inflammation from the research that I've done. And this prolonged inflammation, because if you eat this every day, have a toast for breakfast every day, and this prolonged inflammation can actually promote things like colon cancer, because obviously these foods and these agents pass through your bodies, right? um so I guess, yeah, would that be like a something to look out for? Maybe opting for breads that are organic and have none of these additives in them might be a better route to take to avoid this inflammation.
Absolutely, very good point. As a rule of thumb, they say that you shouldn't eat anything that your grandmother or grandfather wouldn't recognize.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
meaning our grandfather or mother, they probably lived between the last 2 centuries,
Mhm.
and the type of food that they would eat was very simple, vegetables and fruits, some meats, for example, like beef or chicken, some fish, of course, but they had no access to any type of ultra processed food or processed food, of course. And that's the rule of thumb. Of course, it's not a guideline, but it's just to make you understand that it's something that you cannot find like the way it is in nature. You
Yeah,
should probably avoid it, or at least eat it very like not so often,
certainly.
because of course as you just said, the industry was very good in making this food super cheap
Mm,
and super rich in nutrients, and that was very good because it allowed us to grow as a population, etc. But at the same time, since our diet really changed, and also our the level of activity that we can perform every day changed compared to the past. Now we are really always in a surplus of calories, and this type of food is full of calories, and this is something that we should pay attention. And again, as we said, this type of food, lifestyle, a series of things that we all know, they may contribute to this low grade inflammation. For example, type 2 diabetes, also the metabolic syndrome. All these elements, they are really dangerous because they are silent. You wouldn't recognize them until the symptoms. But when you have the symptoms, it's pretty late.
mm,
So it's something that we should start be aware when we are young, I guess. And because those processes, as you just mentioned, colorectal cancer. So to develop colorectal cancer, it takes on average 10 to 15 years.
yeah.
Meaning, when you have diagnosis at 65, meaning that you probably
Had
start,
y-
you did a mistake 10
yeah,
or
yeah.
15
So
years before.
having that chronic inflammation,
Exactly.
yeah, that's my point there. So it's like, so just to sort of just to summarize for the audience, so it would be eating foods that are as close to nature as possible, essentially. Avoid maybe you can have a treat from time to time, but maybe avoiding things like I don't know, so biscuits seem quite processed and things like that.
Yeah,
It's fit,
anything that goes in the oven, those are pre-made meals.
yeah.
Actually, I mean, I'm not blaming people because I'm the first one that sometimes, when you are super in a hurry, you need something to eat very quickly. Those are very handy. That's why they're so sold, because they are very easy to prepare, easy to eat. They are very palatable, so very good. The taste is super strong. So we cannot blame people for that. It's more like blaming industries, maybe, but it's not
Mm,
a matter of blaming. It's just a matter of being aware that this type of food, it may contribute to this state of inflammation. This state of inflammation, it would bring you to neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, and also not last but not least, also to aging, because it would increase the rate of stress inside your body, and oxidative stress. And this oxidative stress, as we saw at the beginning, it would contribute also to premature aging.
yeah, and it's interesting because, for example, like it might be these fruit bars. Some of them are actually seem really ultra processed and have a lot of additives in them. So I actually have this app, and I don't have any affiliation to this app, but I find it really really interesting. It's called Yuka,
I know.
YUKA, and it's such a fascinating app because it you literally scan whatever you want in the shop, and it would show you, this has sodium diphosphates in them, and obviously that's excess phosphate consumption can lead to, or phosphorus consumption can lead to cardiovascular diseases, for example, and things like that. Essentially, so the way I sort of did this was I'd would be a bit odd, but scanning certain breads in the shop before I bought them, and I would see that this organic, no additive bread does indeed have no additives in them. So that's no additives that can cause inflammation and things like that. And that bread might not last as long. It might not be as tasty, but
Hmm.
I'm aware that it's not going to be negatively impacting my health as much as bread that does have these additives in them and things like that. And these things are hidden in a lot of products that I wouldn't have known would have these in them. So that's that's another point there, really. Um, but yeah, okay.